So thanks for coming tonight. My name is Kaylee Williams. I'm one of the reference librarians here at the main branch. No more cable. This class came about because we had a large demand of people asking us questions about how they can cut their cable costs, the different streaming services, which in itself is overwhelming. I will say I'm going to cover a lot of information tonight, but I'm sure that there are some streaming services that are not included in this, especially when you get into the more like niche topics. There seems to be a streaming service for everyone now. All of the different big movie channels, HBO, Showtime, etc. have them, and I don't necessarily go into all of that here, but bear in mind that the best service for you is probably going to be a combination of services, and you might come out of this and decide that you still want to keep cable, but oh, maybe that one service sounds interesting. It's not going to be the same for every user. So I am going to go through a lot of information. Please feel free to ask questions as I go. Sometimes that works best so that you don't forget what you wanted to ask about. But I did add on extra time to this program for questions at the end, so there will be a lot of time for us to go over some specifics here. And I am by no means an expert. I just tried to do as much research as I could for you to try to save you a little trouble. So that in mind, I do have to state that the library does not endorse or recommend any of these products except for the ones that the library provides. And me mentioning them here is not necessarily going to be an endorsement. I'm presenting you with a bunch of options and suggestions here, and they really are meant for you to go home and look into them yourself to make sure that these different services work for you. There are going to be a lot of things I talk about, but I'm sure I missed something, as I said. So the first thing that I always mention here is before you cut cable, first contact your cable provider. Especially now that there has been such an influx in people cutting cable, the cable companies are much more willing to cut a deal with you for you to keep cable a little longer. Might be the best time for you to call up and say, I want to get rid of my cable, I just want to keep my internet, because then they will have some sort of, suddenly there's this special offer that's $40 cheaper than what you're paying kind of thing going on. And I will say I was very resistant to get rid of my cable because of the fact that I really liked having like the on-demand options, the recording options, those things, and I held on longer than anyone in my family or friend group. I think it was, I think June 2020 is when I officially was like done with it. At that point, for my one cable box with DVR and regular medium speed internet, my payments were about $170 a month. And I have one television, so I just decided it was definitely not worth it for me to pursue in that way. And I wasn't watching enough TV for me to justify that cost. And I will say the big thing to remember is that cutting cable does not necessarily mean cutting your cable company completely. Most of our cable providers are also our internet providers. And you do need to have internet in order to stream content, which is what we're going to talk about tonight. If you do not have a device for streaming, that is going to be your first step. And streaming is playing a video with a constant internet connection. So you do need to have an internet connection for streaming. The difference between that and downloading is you need to have an internet connection when you download something, and then after that point you do not need to have a connection. So for instance, if you have a smartphone or a tablet and you download a video on it, you can watch it in airplane mode. You cannot stream in airplane mode because it has an internet connection at that point. If you do not have a device, you may want to start with making a list of the shows and the channels in particular that you like, because not all services work on all devices. This can be very frustrating, especially because just like when you get those notices on your cable TV that they'll have that streaming notice across the bottom of your screen saying that the Fox channel is going to go away on this date because they haven't reached an agreement. The same thing happens with streaming providers and certain device companies. So for instance, I use a Roku device. You can no longer get YouTube on the Roku. And it's these things, the companies make deals with one another. So sometimes it does mess up what the consumer is looking into, because that was something I had and now I can't have on that specific streaming device. It's good to have, if your priorities are local channels, if your priorities are you just want to be able to watch documentaries, if you really love the History Channel, if you're very interested in getting the Food Network, making sure you have those down helps you choose which one of these services, if any, will work for you, or maybe it's a combination kind of thing. As I said, not all of the services are going to have the same channels, and oftentimes it's going to be a combination of services, especially if you want to watch content that is exclusive to that service. What we are seeing more and more is these amazing shows are debuting on Netflix and they don't come to DVD. But you might want to see it because you heard about it on the Golden Globes or your friends watched it and those things. So that's also something that comes up, is that a lot of these streaming providers are creating original content, and that can then make you feel a little left out if you can't watch them. Some of them do go on DVD, I will say. Some of the things from Hulu and Netflix have gone on DVD, like Grace and Frankie is a Netflix show, and we have DVDs for that. Handmaid's Tale from Hulu, there's DVDs for that. But just, it's basically if they think they'll make money on putting it out as a DVD. There is a more detailed glossary in your handout here, but just a few things to mention, especially if you're new to this whole process. HDMI, high definition multimedia interface. Essentially what this is the plug that goes from your TV to your DVD player. It also goes to the streaming device if you have one. And it's used to talk about both the port and the cord, because it's an HDMI port, it's an HDMI cord. This essentially takes the place of the old like yellow, red, white wires that we had on the TVs. It works in that same way. It's transmitting the video and the sound without having to use all the different plugs for it. And when purchasing a new TV, you'll often see that advertised, how many HDMI ports it has. And that's if you wanted to have multiple streaming devices, if you have gaming or DVD, Blu-ray players, they all take up ports. So if you, I think the average now seems to be 3 or 4 on new TVs as like the baseline. I've seen some that have like 6 to 8, which seems a little excessive to me. When I use the word device, this can mean your smartphone, your tablet, your computer. It can also mean your television in this case, but it's the device. The device is the machine connected to the streaming unit that we're talking about. A smart TV, you might have seen these advertised if you don't have one at home. A smart TV does not require an external streaming device because it's built into the TV. And it will often have updates just like your computer has or your tablet has, for it to say that it needs to update these apps or it needs to update the operating system. As I said, streaming is the term used for a constant internet connection to play video. The cloud, we often hear cloud storage, and this is a big thing when you're talking about the services that say they offer DVR cloud storage. And the cloud is storing information not directly on your device, but with a quick access point. So it means it's not taking up storage space, but you still have quick access to it the same way you would like open a file on your computer. Cloud storage means it is stored elsewhere. So a lot of the services offer DVR, which is digital video recording, and it'll be like cloud DVR. So you don't actually need to have something to hold all that memory. And that's why a lot of them can offer unlimited for that. MBPs is megabits per second. You might have seen this if you've looked at your cable bill closely, your cable internet bill, I should say, or if you have looked at updating or changing your internet provider. It's how fast your internet is. Most of the streaming services require a very small baseline for this. I think some of them even operate at like 8 as the minimum. People who play online video games always want it to be really high, like 100, 120. I think the average nowadays is, like, if you were to get basic internet, is somewhere in the 40 to 60 range. So these are a few of the devices that you can get. I'm sure there's some other off-brand or different brand that I don't know about. These are the common devices that you can use for streaming. The Fire Stick, Google Chromecast, Roku, Apple TV. If you have a Blu-ray player or a DVD player that's considered smart, it might already have some of those apps built in or allow you to add new ones. Your TV, if you have a smart TV as well. And a lot of the gaming systems also allow you to download and use them essentially the same way you would a streaming service. So all of the PlayStation units from 3 up allow that, as do the Xbox series. The very basic Wii used to allow Netflix. I don't know if they still do, if they've continued support for that. And just so you know what I'm using, in mine I have a Roku and I have a PlayStation 4. And there are some programs that, some of the apps for the streaming services work on one and not the other. And so we do use both in my house. But I've also used, I think I've used all of these at one point in time based on being at a friend's house or family member's house. My mom and my brother are very attached to the Fire Sticks. I had a Fire Stick and it died and I replaced it with the Roku because there was a very specific app I wanted. It didn't work on the Fire Stick. So one thing you can do is to check your internet speed before you move on to streaming. There are a number of free sites for this. It's best to check on a few different sites for you to have an idea. Just so you know, the number that you're gonna see here is not going to match exactly the number that your internet provider says you get, especially if you have more than one device in your home, if you have smartphones or tablets. The more devices connected to the internet, the slower it's going to go. Now, just being at home and having your phone connected and maybe not even using it is not going to really affect it that much, by maybe 1 or 2 points if that. But you know, say you and your husband and your daughter are all connected and streaming video, it's going to be slower for everybody because everybody is using a higher amount of the internet at the time. And the only time you might want to contact your internet provider for this is if you're paying for 100 and you're continually getting it and it's only reading 40 and you've tried turning everything off and you're doing that, that's a concern. And it might also be your modem. The farther you are from the modem, the poorer your connection is going to be. So if your modem is in your basement and on the 2nd floor is where you're trying to stream Netflix and you're running into problems, that is why. It's going to be that it's a little farther. And there are things you can buy called Wi-Fi boosters that'll help sort of bridge that gap for you if you're running into that problem rather than having to invest in another modem. But you can do that if you're running into those problems. So, yes?
So what speed did you want to be on there? 70, 90?
That was just my sample. I did that on a laptop in one of the meeting rooms here. You want to be at least, I'd say, most of the streaming services, if you go to their website, they will tell you what the baseline is. Most of them, it's like 8 to 10. It's very small. The majority of the internet that you would purchase today is going to be 40 or above. Mine was at, my home internet, I think we were paying for 80 and we upgraded and it's at 100 now, which is more than enough for the things we're doing. We're not doing any video games or anything. I think they were just running an offer. We just went for it. And so there are, in your handout, there's a few different websites you can go to. These are free ones for you. If you go log in on your home computer, you can kind of get an idea of what your internet speed is at. And there's going to be a couple of, it'll explain to you on these sites the way that it's measuring it for you so that you have an idea of, one thing is upload speed and download speed, and they explain some of the particulars on those sites. So I'm going to go in order I think I have them in the handout in this order, talking about the services I've sort of grouped together. A lot of the services, pretty much all of the services that we're going to talk about tonight are month to month. So what that means is if you start paying for YouTube TV and you find that you're really not liking the content on it, you can cancel. And you don't have any sort of commitment or contract with the streaming service. Also, pretty much every streaming service that costs money has a free trial period. I encourage you to take advantage of that if you're wondering if you would actually like it or not, especially because sometimes on the websites, you can't really see all of the way that the app is going to function for you. Most of them, it's 5 to 14. I think 14 is the most I've seen, like a 14-day free trial for something. And it'll give you an idea of if you actually will use this, if it's going to work for you. So free streaming, nothing's ever really free, right? They make you watch ads on all of these, is how they pay for it. So these are going to be the free services that you can access without having any sort of credit card attached to them. All of the ones listed here and in your handout here are going to be completely free to access and don't even typically require a login, although some of them do at times. So Tubi, I'm going to start with that one because it's up in the corner there, is owned by the Fox Corporation. They have free movies and TV shows. All of these are going to have a sort of rotating content, which means a movie might be on there right now, but 3 months from now, they'll have taken it off. So it's not always consistent on the free apps. Crackle is owned by Sony and Columbia and the Chicken Soup Corporation. They have a lot of family-friendly content. They have a lot of movies and shows. I think they do ask you to have a login, create a login with an email address and a password, but it's free to watch. Imdb TV was recently acquired by Amazon Prime. It is still free to watch, but I believe you now have to log into your Prime account. That is a recent change that I have not played around with much. Although I think you can still get it on your regular device. They did just recently start having original content on there. Judge Judy moved over there, although her show is now called something else, but it's Judge Judy. It's the same thing. Is over on Imdb TV now. Pluto TV is one that I find I like because it's more like random channel surfing to me. I'll show you, my next slide shows you kind of how they look, and then at the end of the program I'll show you some of the websites specifically. But Pluto TV is going to have like a set number of channels that are themed, but they're not the same channels that you would find on TV. So like they have a channel that is America's Funniest Home Videos, and it's basically just all the America's Funniest Home Videos shows. And that's just all that's on there all the time. But there's regular commercials. They have a lot of like the food shows and the home shows, but it's just sort of their own sort of channels. It's not like you can go on there and watch a specific thing like, as if you would with like TNT or USA or one of those channels. They don't have the specifics. They'll have like skewed ones. They'll have like TV Land favorites kind of thing. Mm-hmm.
So that Pluto then, is that like old programming that
yes.
you would have seen on, oh okay, so that's old.
It's not old because I've seen stuff on there that's like the Gordon Ramsay Hell's Kitchen. They have a channel that's Gordon Ramsay's Hell's Kitchen, and it's just always showing different episodes from that. But it's going to be previously aired. Now
those other ones where you said they had movies, now do they like specialize in a certain genre of movies? Not
particularly. No, aside from, as I said, Crackle is a little more family friendly than others, so they'll have a lot of more family or Christian based movies, but they do still have a big mix of stuff. You can still watch action movies on all of them. YouTube, you might not think of, but YouTube has its own original content, obviously, but you can also go onto YouTube for if you like watching the late night talk show hosts, their shows are on YouTube the next day. You might have to watch 3 episodes to get, or 4 or 5 videos probably, to see the whole episode. But you know, you'll see, Stephen Colbert opening monologue, and then he's interviewing whoever's on that night, and you can watch them in bits and pieces for those. But that's a free content, so if that's something you wanted, there are a lot of those things out there. There are also full episodes and movies on YouTube, which people don't tend to think about, but it's in their search features. You can see entire movies on there. The other one I want to note is, I'm going to show you a little more about it later, but Peacock, which is from NBC, I'm going to say, based on my own experience, about like a fourth of it is free. They have a lot of movies, they have TV shows, and they'll have like the first 2 seasons are free of Parks and Recreation on Peacock, but then after that they want you to be a subscriber. And they'll have their own version of live TV as well, where it's not necessarily live, but it's just you can jump in and start watching, and it'll be old segments from the Today shows, it'll be other content that is on that service that you can jump in and watch. They do have 2 different pay tiers, which we'll get into, but parts of it are free, and I'll show you how that looks. Do I have that on this one? Yes, on Peacock. So if it has this little like purple feather in the corner, that means you have to be a subscriber. If it doesn't, that means that it's free to watch. However, I will say sometimes it's deceiving, because it'll say it's free to watch and it'll be like the first 6 episodes are free to watch. And then after they get you hooked, you realize you can't keep watching it unless you pay for it. Pluto TV over here, this one here. So you see how they have these little channels? Like this one says Cult Films. I can't even see, Flicks of Fury. And then they also have some on-demand options for you too. And they periodically partner with some of the other services. So like currently, I just grabbed this one this week. It says CBS Selects. So there's gonna be select CBS shows that are on there right now without having to log in or anything. That's free from Pluto. Crackle here, you'll see some of the older shows, as well as they have movies on here. Imdb TV. You see there's a bunch of movies as well as some shows, so like Groundhog Day was on here, Hook, and Tubi works the same way. Movies here, and like, I mean, these aren't bad movies, they're just gonna be a little bit older, like Monuments Men is here, The Other Boleyn Girl, and the content rotates, especially when you get towards a holiday. Like they'll get different things on here, like last year we watched Beetlejuice was free on Peacock. We watched Beetlejuice at that point when it was around Halloween. It was free. I think The Addams Family was free on one this year. So they tend to get them on because they're paying for the rights to that movie. And so they'll pay for them for like a limited time, but that means you can watch it for free too. All right, so these are live TV services. These ones are gonna cost money. But these are gonna be the most like your cable. Hulu Live, you might have heard of. It's my bottom one here. Hulu Live is different than the regular Hulu. They often call it like Hulu Plus, I think, Hulu Plus Live. It is $64.99 a month, which seems to be about average at these days. And Hulu Live has all of the Hulu content, but also live TV. So you can then watch your basic like shows. Let me see what I have on here, Hulu Live. So you can watch ABC, CBS, MTV, OWN, TLC, all of those are going to be included on there. You also get your live local channels like 5, 19, 8, those ones come with that as well. YouTube TV, same price, $64.99. They're going to have this live TV, sports, news, entertainment, local channels, YouTube TV. This used to fit nicely on here, but they added a lot more channels. So I had to like smoosh it in there today. They also have those local channels like 358, 19, and the CW. And they'll also have things like MTV and Fox. I think they just added Hallmark back in. They had gotten rid of Hallmark for a little bit. They just added that back. There was also a whole crazy thing that happened where they were losing ABC and Disney, and there was about 2 days there in December where they were dropping their price down because they were losing it, and then were able to resolve the conflict and get it back. Philo, I'm not entirely sure how you say that one. They also have recently added a lot of things. Now this one is going to be pretty much the most cost effective on these lists for the ones that are live TV, but it does come at the cost where you don't get the local channels. And this is only $25 a month at this point. In the time I've been teaching this class, it's gone up from 20 to 25. And I started, the first time I taught this class was 2020, so just to give you idea there. They have a lot of the lifestyle and entertainment channels like Food Network and HGTV. They also have VH1, the music channels if you'd like those, the Hallmark channels, the History Channel. It depends on what you're watching on these. But that one has a lot of things, and it does come at the cost of no local channels. Hbo TV, again, $64.99 a month. That's pretty much what you're getting for most of these services right now. They have a lot of sports channels, but they do not have local channels either. They are going to have a few different packages to choose from, some which can include some of the more premium channels. And they do offer like DVR. I think all of these have DVR on them now. And Hbo also, well, they do have local channels on this one, yeah. That one has the local channels. I apologize, my handout's not right. I just grabbed this screen grab today, so I must not have noticed that they added in our locals. But they have TLC, the basics. It seems like a lot of them are going to have similar channels. It really just depends on if you have some specifics that you like, that you'd like to get. Sling is customizable. That one's one of the original sort of streaming live TV, and their big claim to fame is the fact that they're customizable. They have a few different plans that you can choose from to start, and then you can add in more things. So their plans start at $35 a month, but they're going to have different channels on the different plans. So there's two $35 plans, but they have different packages. You can get one, you can get both. There are add-ons. It also depends on how many devices you'd like to stream on, and you can see those on their site to see more details. But they have the live TV, but very few local options for you too. Oh, Directv Stream was formerly AT&T TV Now. And then before that, it was Directv Now. They just keep flip-flopping their name. And that's going to be essentially the same kind of service you would get, the same kind of channels you would get if you had DirecTV or AT&T, like with a cable box in your home. So I don't have a screenshot of that, but you can confirm that one, because that one's going to be very similar to what you would get in home. They just have moved it to streaming instead of on the box itself. But it operates in the same way, and they have pretty much all of the same channels in that service. So these are going to be some of the on-demand viewing. The services are going to be less in cost, but they are going to have more original content. And again, the rotating content that comes and goes from them. So these range from, I think it's changed now. The ones we're going to go over go from, I think, $4.99 to $9.99 a month, essentially. Some might be a little more. But so Netflix is kind of the original on-demand viewing, and their base plan is $8.99. It goes up from there. You can have multiple users on the same account, and the same goes for, I think, all of these, where you can have multiple users in there. And the benefit of that is, you know, maybe you and your husband like the same show but prefer to watch it separately. It's better if you have two separate accounts, because then, you know, he might be on episode 8 and you're on episode 3, and that way you can just proceed normally. But it also helps for you to curate that collection for you. So if you're looking at, you know, maybe you love romance movies and he likes action movies, that kind of thing, and that way it'll give you suggestions for upcoming shows and movies that are more tailored to your tastes. Because I will say, like, even though a lot of us watch the same stuff on Netflix and Disney and all of that, if you have your own profile on there, no one's profiles are the same because you have your own interests. So my profile that shows like sitcoms and food shows and home shows and stuff is not going to be the same thing that you would watch. So even though you can access all of those, your homepage is going to be different. Disney Plus is obviously from the Disney Corporation. They have not all of the Disney movies on there. I say that because there are still some that they've like held back for one reason or another. But they have a lot of the animated Disney films. They often have a release that you can do for, you can pay extra for early releases of movies that are in theaters. You can then access them before they're officially on DVD for a lot of things. They'll do like big announcements saying that there's certain things coming to the streaming platforms on certain days for you to be able to watch them on that day. They have original content. They have some original shows, as well as, I think there's some original movies or movies that have released exclusively on Disney Plus. It's not just Disney that's on there too, I'll say. They also have, I think it's National Geographic is on there too, and a few other things. Like, I don't remember what channel the Incredible Dr. Pol is on, but it's on Disney Plus. I think that's National Geographic. Prime Video comes from Amazon. Amazon Prime also has its own original content, like the Marvelous Miss Maisel is on Amazon. They stream through an Amazon account. You can have Prime on its own, and it starts at $8.99 a month, or you can have it as part of a larger Amazon Prime account, which gives you perks with purchasing things on Amazon, like free shipping and stuff. So it's a standalone, but you can also have it sort of bundled in. And I will say one thing to look at too with streaming services is a lot of them will have bundle deals or different, beginning of the year deals. There are actually quite a few right now that have New Year deals where it might be $2 off a month for the first 6 months or something like that. The big bundle is Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN Plus right now. And that's been the big bundle since they came out. So you can get them all for a combined price on their websites. And it comes up on each of their websites as an option for you to sign up and get that bundle price. So if you're interested in all three services, it's a good deal. I would never watch ESPN, so it just wouldn't work for me, but sports people. And Hulu, so this is going to have all of the original content. It has shows and movies. Their original content are also in shows and movies. They've had some original movies come out. They do have a lot of stuff that comes next day. So for instance, shows that air on Fox and I think ABC, I think it's still ABC goes on there. They'll air the day after. So my fiance loves Gordon Ramsay. So like the Gordon Ramsay show that just started, it airs on I think Tuesdays. So on Wednesdays you can watch it on Hulu. And they do have different price points as well. Hulu it starts at $6.99 a month, and then there is an ad-free version, I want to say $12.99 a month. So I put the starting prices in here. These are usually the ones that have ads and things. So these are going to be some other streaming services I wanted to mention. As I said, I'm sure I'm missing some. Like I know I didn't put Showtime in here, but and they have their own thing, and I think AMC has one now. This would just be like a 3-hour presentation if I just did all of them. So the one, Apple TV Plus is, and I forgot to mention this with Prime, Apple and Prime both offer rentals in addition to your subscription fee. So there's original content on both, there's free content on both, but then there's also going to be movies and shows that you can pay an additional fee for. Apple TV Plus has this with a lot of movies and things. Apple TV has the rights to the Peanuts characters, so that is where you can watch all the Charlie Brown stuff if you are interested in that around the holidays. They also have an original Snoopy show that they just started, I think. But Amazon Prime does this as well, especially for movies that are newer, that maybe are not out on DVD yet, but are available for purchase for streaming. These prices can range from 99 cents to $19.99 I've seen. The same with Apple. And so you just have to make sure when you're browsing that you're browsing with that in mind on these, if you're using one of those services. Paramount Plus, I just recently started using this one. It was formerly CBS All Access. They last year merged all together. There's CBS, Nickelodeon, Comedy Central, MTV, and a bunch of other ones, and they also have some original content on there. And that one is $4.99 a month. One of the lower end ones, but it has a good amount of content on it. I've been browsing through that one. It has a lot of the like crime shows, the things that air on CBS. Peacock. We talked about that a little bit because they have a free component. Peacock starts at $4.99 a month with ads. This is from NBC. There's a lot of the NBC shows. You can also next day watch the shows that have aired on NBC. So if you're not precious about watching it live, you can watch it the day after. The same with CBS on Paramount Plus, by the way. So you can watch shows that have aired on CBS the next day on Paramount Plus. And on Peacock, they have $4.99 with ads, and I think it's $6.99 without ads. I was very disappointed in this just because I was watching Peacock free, and then I thought if I was paying for it, I wouldn't have the ads, but I still have the ads. This is the kind of thing you run into with these services, and that's why they can charge $5 a month and it not be too much. HBO Max, you've probably heard of before. HBO's gone through a number of names for their streaming services. It was HBO Now, it was HBO Go, it's now HBO Max. They have they have their HBO content, they have some original movies and original shows. They also have some classic TV on there. I know that they currently own the rights for Friends, which is an odd one to me because that was an NBC show, so you'd think it would be on Peacock, but HBO bought it. And they have a $9.99 a month with ads option, and I think it's $16.99 a month if you pay if you have no ads. They changed their pricing model in the last year because they used to have just the more expensive one, and then they started offering one with ads to make it a little more affordable. Friendly TV is one that you might not have heard of, but is a sort of growing one in this genre here. They are known for having the Hallmark channels, and they recently partnered just this last holiday season. They got the Lifetime network and a few other things in there too. They are $6.99 a month for their basic plan, and it goes up from there. I think it's more if you have DVR options or probably more devices kind of thing. And I have a screenshot of those on the next page too. And then DAZN, I think is what that one's called. This one's going to be sports matches, boxing. They have, if you like watching the live boxing matches, they have those on there. It's $19.99 a month, or they have an annual $99.99. ESPN Plus is going to be live sports, archived games. You can watch the UFC matches, pay-per-view there, and that's $6.99 a month. You could also consider bundling that with the Hulu and Disney, like I said. And then I think Discovery Plus. That one just came out in 2021. It's one of my favorites because it has all the Food Network stuff, and I like that. So it has like Food Network, HGTV. They have all of the things that are like the Ghost Hunters and stuff. I think that would be like the Discovery Network. And they have some original content as well, especially when it comes to those like home shows or food shows. They'll have some originals and some sort of spin-off things. That one is just $4.99 a month as well, and it does have ads. I think they introduced an ad-free version recently that's a little more expensive. They also have like the TLC, the ID channel, and they have some on-demand viewing of those. And just like with a lot of the others, they'll have a good number of shows that are next day viewing, and some of them are even same day viewing. So if you've ever seen like HGTV Hometown, it's on there the day it airs. And then a lot of them are going to be on there the next day. And they have a whole big catalog of stuff there. So if you wanted to watch like the original Barefoot Contessa cooking shows or Bobby Flay things, like they go back really far on there. And they have a lot of different content as well. So Friendly, oh, they got A&E and History Channel. That was the other thing. So this one is live viewing. I didn't mention that. So you can watch these channels live with this, as well as have some on-demand options. They have a lot of family-friendly things, like there's the game show networks on there. There are some of the like Up TV and inspirational channels. The GAC Family channel is on there now. And they have a lot of options if you'd like those. As I said, ESPN Sports. It's going to show a lot of those different games that you might be interested in. Apple TV Plus with their original movies, like there's that Tom Hanks movie Greyhound. The Snoopy Show is their new thing on there. The Paramount Plus, like I said, they have a lot. Blue Bloods, that's a good CBS show. Crime show. They have a lot of the CBS shows as well as Nickelodeon, and they have a lot of the classic Nickelodeon content as well as like the newer stuff. Okay, so I do not have this in the handout, so you might want to take notes if you want, although it's not looking good for our local sports. This is, I think, the 4th time I have gone through this class, and every time the options get smaller and smaller for the local sports. They want you to be paying for the like live TV options where you have ABC, NBC, that things, CBS. So Cleveland sports, this is the Cavs, obviously, we're going to talk about here. The NBA games in general, if you have a service that has TNT or ESPN on one of the live channels and the games on there, you can watch it. The same with NBA TV. It's available on Hbo TV, Sling, and YouTube. Bally Sports Ohio. Currently, the only way you can watch Bally Sports, which is the only place to watch the Cavs specifically, my coworker Meg is a big basketball fan and she laments this fact. The only way you can watch it currently is with Directv Stream. Now, Bally Sports Ohio is supposed to be coming out with their own streaming service sometime this year. It was supposed to be last year. It's been pushed again. And so if you are a Cavs fan or otherwise Cleveland sports fan, you may want to look into getting that service when it does finally come out. I don't know what they'll be charging, but maybe if you're only into one of those sports, you could pay for just that season kind of thing. The Browns. So the Browns, if they are on Thursday Night Football, you can watch them with your Prime subscription. My brother was very excited to discover that recently. He texted me, "Did you know this is on Amazon?" I was like, "Yes." And then I think I even sent him the link for this handout that was on our website. I was like, "Here, learn about some of the things." YouTube TV, Hbo TV, Hulu Live, and Paramount Plus, they often have the games on there, but it's going to depend on what channel they're playing on. If you're a sports fan, you know they're not always on the same channel, and unfortunately that does run into the problem that not every game is going to be covered by every service. Unless you do have something like Directv, the Directv streaming. So Cleveland baseball, the only one that is doing that right now is Directv Stream with Bally Sports Ohio. They're the only ones that are currently allowing it for that. However, if it's broadcast on a local network, like a lot of times the games might be on one of our local channels, and you have a service with the local channel, you are still able to view it there. Again, they air them on different channels, so you might not be able to get every channel with every game. This is a game my stepfather plays when he wants to watch the sports, of which thing can he find it on. Okay, there's also the option to rent or buy digital movies or shows, and there's cloud storage for these. You can purchase digital copies of movies through a number of services. Fandango Now, you might know Fandango as the movie people, you know. They have an app that I don't think works on any of my devices. But they have an app for you to be able to purchase movies, and they will often have movies before they're officially on DVD. Amazon and Apple, as I said, Google Play, like if you have a Google Play store for a tablet, they will have movies for you to purchase. Apple also has movies you can purchase. Voodoo is one service. Movies Anywhere which seems to be less popular now because they stopped giving out like digital codes, but they have movies you can purchase as well for rent. And I say check DVDs for digital copy codes, but I think that's sort of phasing out now. Disney, before Disney Plus, they often would include a digital copy when you bought it, and it was usually just this little slip of paper that had a stream of numbers and letters that you could plug in to have a digital copy of it. Many of the devices are going to have their own store to rent movies and shows, and a lot of them do have free content as well. So if you have a Roku device, you might see in your Roku homepage, Roku TV, and as I was talking with Jason about at the beginning here, they bought the library of Quibi, which was a super short-lived streaming service that was intended for commuters and unfortunately came out in March of 2020. Think about that for a second. So their intent was that, people who are commuting and are on transit would have their device in order to watch a short video while they're traveling, and all of their content was under 10 minutes. Well, they came out in March of 2020. The world was what it was, a lot less people commuting, and they folded incredibly quickly. So don't be surprised if you had not heard of that service. But all of their original content that they put millions towards creating is for free on Roku TV now. And Roku also has a lot of the same kind of free content the way Pluto TV does. They'll have their own channels. But they also have some things on there where you can rent or you can borrow it, like rent it, certain things. A lot of them will ask you to have a login. The PlayStation Store will have things like this too for you to be able to rent a movie. You'll often see them as ads when you first open up your device, when you turn on your TV. Okay, so free stuff from the library. This is where I'd like to kind of end on here because of that. Although I think I do have a couple slides after this. But if you did not know, the library does have some streaming content that you can get on your home TV. Now, depends on the device you have, of course, but I will say both Canopy and Hoopla work on my Roku. Canopy is going to be 10 checkouts a month. It is unlimited checkouts on the kids version of that, but they have a ton of movies. They have like a collection that's just like Oscar winners. They have a lot of short films and documentaries and a good selection. A lot of classic stuff too, if you like classic movies. Lots of good stuff on Canopy. Hoopla, this one is sort of the jack of all trades of our digital services because you can also get ebooks, e-audiobooks, CDs, but you can get movies and TV shows that are on Hoopla as well. They just changed some of their stuff, so we've had it at 20 checkouts a month for about 2 years now, and that means you get 20 for the whole month of TV shows, movies, but they just added in a new feature where you get 10 flex checkouts, and those are going to be like the ultra popular stuff, and you can have 10 out at a time, so once you return one, you can take another one out. It allows you to get more content. Libby has a few select services, and I will say this is going to be more limited to your computer, tablet, or smartphone. Libby does not have an app for streaming devices at this time, but they do have access to some of these if you are interested in them. I'd like to mention them. Kello Concerts, I'm not sure if it's Kello or Quello because there's no U, but they have thousands of concert films. Like you'll see on there, there's like an Adele in concert thing. There's a lot of classical music, but there's a lot of big name stars too, as well as some documentaries. IndieFlix is named as such because they originally started with just independent films, and they've expanded from there. There's a lot of independent films, but they also have a bunch of feature films, documentaries. And then you may not have known that you can get the great courses through this. So if you've heard of the great courses, they're going to be some sort of educational documentary type style things on a ton of topics. We have some of the book DVD combos in our media room too, but these ones are going to be the streaming of the great courses. And these are all free with your library card. My caveat here is these are with your Mentor library card. So Libby, if you have any CleveNet card, works for you, but if you do not have a Mentor card, Canopy and Hoopla are going to be specific to Mentor patrons. We can talk more a little bit about that at the end, if you'd like. All right. So just wanted to mention antennas, though, because I always have someone ask about it. So they're also referred to as OTA antennas, which is over the air. So they don't do the rabbit ears anymore. They look more like this up here. And some of them are clear. I've even seen the clear ones. And the reason for that is a lot of times they are recommended to be put in a window. So they have free access to your local channels, NBC, ABC, Fox, the usual. The initial cost is going to be just the cost of the antenna. Some are better than others. I have not compared that. However, I believe you can look at Consumer Reports for that. I've seen that on there too, which you can also get for free through the library, Consumer Reports. They do need to be mounted in your home as opposed to sitting right on top of your TV like the old school antennas. They're usually mounted on a wall or a window. You might have to experiment a little bit to figure out where it works best in your home. Because, you know, it might be that your TV is over here, but it works best if it's on the window over there, and, you know, you have to sort of figure that bit out. The reception is going to depend on where you are in relation to a broadcast tower, as well as your location in your home. Here in Mentor, we're relatively populated. We don't run into a lot of trouble, but once you get a little farther out, like in Jefferson and things, you're going to have a little more difficulty with these where the towers are going to be farther away. But there's an initial cost, and then you have free access to these. So this is going to be like your digital antenna for you to be able to get those basic channels if that's all you need. It is one antenna per TV. So if you have 3 TVs that you want to have an antenna, you do have to have that initial purchase of 3 antennas. And that just is the same way it would have worked for our old rabbit ears. Okay, these 3 websites are just a few websites that you can go onto to find out more information about streaming. I like these options because it allows you to search for a specific show to try and find out where you might watch it. So the Streamable is a good one to cut the cord and just watch. These ones allow you to browse for a certain show and figure out where you can view it. And I will say sometimes you won't be able to find a service that it's on, but there will be like a rental fee somewhere. And of course, our library does have DVDs of a lot of stuff, especially if you're looking for a particular TV show. Do not discount your local library because we have a lot of TV shows on DVD. Not just us, but also all of CleveNet.